Welcome to Taking Care of Business on News Talk 1180 KERN for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock and on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday, and for the best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI, the Christian station. We are now on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and also 3 times a week on the internet nationwide through knookmedia.com. Plus, you can catch any of our shows, and I can't believe it's been 4 years now, for the last 4 years, on YouTube at the Clay and Marty Show. My partner, Clay Kerner, is actually at a convention in Las Vegas working. I'm Marty Payne, our producer is Greg Held, and we've got the Goose subbing as a producer today as well. We had a great show last week with Sheriff Babu from Pinal County talking about immigration, rule of law, and his love of Washington politics and politicians. We also had our own local chief meteorologist, Miles Muzio, in studio to talk about global warming. It was a great show last week, and I want to thank both of our guests. But today we've got another great show lined up. In the second half, we have a local author, Craig Luther, talking about his new book, Barbarossa, The Unleashed Story of the German Blitzkrieg Through Russia in World War II. But right now by phone, we have a gentleman that I had the pleasure of hearing speak last month, Scott Lipton. He's the Grassroots Coordinator, Government Affairs Specialist for the California Independent Oil Marketers Association. Scott, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Marty, thank you so much for having me.
Did I introduce your title correctly?
A Grassroots Director, but close enough.
Okay, good. So I meant to ask you off the air, but you're part of a coalition, right? What is the coalition exactly?
Yeah, thank you first of all for having me, and thank you for the question, Marty. The coalition is Fed Up at the Pump, represented as one word or multiple, FedUpAtThePump.org. We are a coalition of small businesses, trade associations, entrepreneurs, and folks concerned about their livelihood and their pocketbooks going forward after January 1st, 2015, when the California Air Resources Board is going to begin implementing their hidden gas tax on transportation fuels.
Crazy. Now, you guys the coalition doesn't take a position on high-speed rail, the water bond, the Delta, any political races. What you're really involved in is just that one issue, which is being fed up at the pump.
That's right. That's right, Marty. Yeah, so very, very simply, Marty, beginning on January 1st, 2015, the California Air Resources Board is going to be implementing a set of regulations called Fuels Under the Cap. And what this is going to do is, for the first time anywhere in the world, subject California transportation fuels to the cap and trade requirements that many of us have already heard about that currently apply to utilities, refineries, large industry factories, things like that. And so for the first time, CARB is essentially equating California motorists with large factory polluters and saying that they, along with all these other folks and entities, have to pay for carbon offsets on the fuel they put in their gas tank.
Now, I met you at a California Trucking Association meeting, but it's not the CTA that's only going to be affected. This is going to affect private individuals and private vehicles, right?
Yeah, so quite simply, Marty, if you go and put gas in your car, whether you have a hybrid, whether you have a truck, whether you're a school district and you're driving a bus, whether your farm equipment operates off of propane, if you do business in the state and you require generators like our hospitals and emergency services do so very often, you are going to be paying anywhere from 16 to 76 cents more per gallon of fuel beginning January 1.
Now, for vehicles, though, it comes out to about 15 cents a gallon. Is that correct?
That's what we're thinking it's going to be initially, Marty. But the way CARB has set it up is it's a government-controlled auction system with no barriers towards manipulation or supply and demand factors. And so really we could see we could see increases of gas prices anywhere from 16 to 76 cents in year one or shortly following.
Scott, I mean, that's being a little cynical about the government. I mean, what government wouldn't do that to us, would they?
And unfortunately, this fairly obscure state agency, the California Air Resources Board, which has appointees from various levels of government, including the legislature and the governor, have carte blanche authority over regulatory schemes like this. And so, back in 2010, they instituted this cap and trade system that applied to oil refineries, utilities, large industry, other folks who are brick and mortar polluters, stationary polluters. And now, beginning in 2015, they're applying that same cap and trade system to transportation fuels.
We are having a conversation with Scott Lipton, Grassroots Director, part of the Fed Up at the Pump Coalition. So, Scott, if we're looking at 16 to 76 cents a gallon, I was going to look this up this morning. I didn't get a chance to. But what is the tax in California already on a gallon of gas? It's pretty high, isn't it?
Yeah, somebody sent me an article about this the other day, Marty, and I apologize. I believe it is somewhere between 30 and 54 cents per gallon are the state and federal taxes on a gallon of gas currently today.
Yeah, somewhere, for some reason, I'm thinking about 50 cents, so you and I are talking about the same ballpark. So you're looking at raising it from 50 to 75 to maybe even $1.50.
Yeah, and let me back you up one quick moment there, Marty. This is actually This is actually going to be built into the cost of a gallon of gas. Right. So all these other taxes that are a percentage of that base cost of gasoline or transportation fuel are also going to go up because they're a percentage.
Right.
So really, it's the cost of the cap and trade system is going to be 16 to 76 cents, but the net impact to the consumer is a couple to 5 pennies more than that once they pump it out at their local gas station.
Now,
and for more information, or if your listeners are truly fed up about this, I would really love for them to go to our website, FedUpAtThePump, FedUpAtThePump.org, and they can send a letter to the governor and saying they're fed up and enough is enough. www.FedUpAtThePump.org is the website. Yeah, and there's actually a letter there that they can use to send to the governor to tell him to back off. That's right.
So now this is all part of AB 32, isn't it?
It is. AB 32 was signed in 2006 by then Governor Schwarzenegger, and in that legislation, the legislature and the governor gave what's called implementation authority to the California Air Resources Board. Again, this is a non-elected, very much a non-accountable state bureaucracy that has taken this idea of reducing California's greenhouse gas emissions and really run with it to a situation where it's become financially untenable for many of California's businesses and now California consumers.
And we're looking at, and I've seen numbers anywhere from $2 billion to $4 billion that's going to be raised by this. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, that's right.
And the money's going to go where? Straight into the general fund, right?
It is going to go straight into the general fund, Marty. And there are some pieces of legislation that require those dollars to be spent in certain relatively vague ways. But yeah, most of that money is essentially a slush fund for the California State Legislature.
And I did see someplace, I know we're not going to get into high-speed rail, but I did see someplace that $1 billion of that money is tagged to go to high-speed rail. $250 million, $250 million in this year's budget
was allocated to high-speed rail from cap-and-trade revenue.
Okay. Now, when we come back from the break, I want to talk about who's going to be hit hardest by these costs. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio News Talk 1180.